What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 29, can't believe that, of the Dragoncast. My name is Brian Daniels, and I am not with my podcasting partner in crime today. Victor has just got some stuff going on today, and he unfortunately won't be able to be a part of this episode. That's okay. We're flexible. We realize that shit happens, so that's totally fine. But once again, welcome back in his place, my lovely, amazingly crazy wife, Raven. What's up, Raven? How you doing?
Hey, not bad.
So, also, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering what's going on. Why don't we have like a guest on this week? So I'll get into that. So I was supposed to have Jeremy King on the podcast today, and I did not know that it was his daughter's first birthday. So happy birthday to Jeremy. Happy birthday to your daughter. And I'm not gonna pull you away to make you do a podcast in place of your daughter's birthday. That would be just flat out ridiculous. So the plan is for episode 30, we're going to try to have, we're planning on having Jeremy on the show. For those who don't know Jeremy King, he's an actor. He was recently on did a movie called Scare Package, which is a horror movie anthology. You liked it, didn't you, Raven?
I did.
You saw it. It was pretty good. She kind of like the other half of the movie, but
no, I only missed one.
You missed like one of the anthologies.
Yeah.
But she liked it. I loved it. It was a great flick, and highly recommend those of you that are horror fans. Even if if you're a comedy fan too, you probably enjoy it because it has some humor. In it. And check it out, especially if you're a Joe Bob fan, like I am. Go check it out. So hopefully we'll have Jeremy King on next week, and then we'll kind of get ourselves situated back to our normal schedule, if you will. By the way, before we get into our conversation for the night, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to our podcast. This is the 9th episode that we have done since we came back 9 weeks ago. That's insane. 8 weeks ago. It's crazy to think that it's been that long. And I want to thank all of our amazing guests that we've had on here. Like Carl from PopCon, KJ, Casey, a lot of other great guests that have had the pleasure of joining us. Paul Niemeyer for being our first guest on the show, Mortal Kombat. And we're looking for more guests. I've got some really great guests lined up. I know I've got one great guest lined up for August, and I'm not going to give that away just yet. But I'm looking forward. You're looking forward to them being on the show too. Somebody Raven knows too, and she loves him as well. But we won't go into that. I won't spoil that surprise just yet. But definitely something. Stay tuned, and thank you for listening to us on Spotify, Google Music, Apple Music, SoundCloud, and of course on YouTube. Every Monday. Anyway, moving right along. Oh, by the way, one thing I want to talk about too is we got some great giveaways on Dragon Blogger. I'm gonna you probably can hear me, and that's fine if you hear me typing. I don't really care. I know we've got. I'm gonna look real quick here. Raven, we've got some great. We usually have some really great giveaways on the site. If it'll load, that's not good. It's fine. We can do it's the show. We can do whatever we want here. But we're looking for some great. We have some great giveaways that the owner of Dragon Blogger, Justin Germino, who has helped make this podcast possible, definitely has helped in a big way. But if you go to our website, dragonblogger.com. You'll find a lot of awesome articles that have to do with like technology, entertainment, and things like that. I have written some stuff on there. There is a giveaway going on right now. If you go to our website and click on the giveaways link, it's in the top right. Win a video game of your choice. I will put a link to that in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you're not listening to this on YouTube, then you're screwed. No, I'm just playing. You can go to dragonblogger.com, and top right corner says giveaways. There's a little present, a gift, if you will, in the top right corner. And you can win a video game of your choice. And it looks like we might even be doing some more giveaways. A copy of Minecraft Dungeons. I think that's another one we're giving away too. And then there's all kinds of great reviews on products, all kinds of stuff. I did an unboxing of the BAM box, which I just got. I had some pretty cool stuff. You saw some of that stuff, right? It was pretty cool. Really cool. We're not gonna spoil that, as I want you to go watch the video. But there's a lot of dope stuff in that. Go check it out, and that's gonna be the advertising for the day. Anyway, moving on. So Raven and I were talking about, this has been a crazy year so far. There's a lot of stuff going on that we don't need to really go into the why, but the things that it's affected. That's going on. You were talking about earlier in the car, like going to concerts. How you miss going to concerts. Yeah. This has been like the year of like just no fun. Like you can't,
it's definitely challenged, I think, people's concept and perception of what entertainment is. So they're finding different means or modes to entertain themselves and each other. So, like we briefly mentioned, the virtual cons and people doing virtual concerts, and, how musical artists and everybody were setting up makeshift studios in their home, with like ladders and computers and stuff, things like that. So, it's just been interesting.
It's been really weird because I know we touched on this last time you and I talked, and I'm not going to talk all conversation about the con scene, but I will say that it's been weird not going to any and not attending.
It's been a little refreshing.
Because I'm a huge... It's been refreshing.
I love going to cons, but it's allowed us to kind of explore
other means, other modes
of
like hanging out.
Yeah,
too.
Spending our time, and we've actually spent a lot of time outdoors, which we had kind of anticipated doing that since we now live closer to the river. Yeah. But it's been nice.
Yeah, it's been really interesting because people have had to get more creative. With what's going on in the world, you got to get more creative with things. I know, like, one thing I thought was kind of funny is seeing how these big studio-produced shows like Jimmy Fallon and Stephen Colbert and even like The Daily Show with what's his name, Trevor Noah? Yeah, they've all had to do this from home. And what's really funny is I don't know how much you've watched of it on YouTube, because all their stuff's on YouTube, but it's all on YouTube. They've had to, it's so funny seeing these people who are so used to, they don't have to do anything at their home. They don't have to set up the cameras or the equipment. They just put a suit on and go out there and do their show.
You mean at their studio?
At their studio. Yeah. So I'm saying companies like NBC and CBS have spent millions of dollars on the best technology to ensure that they are going to have great top tier production. And now it's been really funny to see them on YouTube, from their homes and having to set up cameras, like Jimmy Fallon having to deal with his children. Yeah. And there's been a couple times I've watched Fallon. I love Jimmy Fallon, by the way. I love his show. And, his kids will, be kids. They'll just, and sometimes little kids can get annoying. They just do stuff.
What?
And he's had to, correct his kids, while, doing his show.
Yeah.
What's it, He calls Stephen Colbert doesn't call it the Late Show. He calls it a late show or a show or something like that, because he's making fun of how it's not
late,
and not at the studio. And you'll hear his wife talking to him in the background about stuff too, or she'll laugh while he's doing some of his segments, and he tries not to break character, So it's been kind of funny. But yeah, we've had to, people have had to figure things out and find ways to entertain themselves. You know, what are some things that you've seen people have to do, or what are some things that you would challenge people to try to do as a means of entertaining themselves, like during this time, like where it comes to like maybe they should read books more, you know, things like that.
Well, I think people should read anyway, but yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly one of them. But I mean, not even so much that as it is like just getting outside. Like, and that doesn't mean getting out around people. And I think that's what it's been kind of funny in terms of introvert versus extrovert on this whole thing as well.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times introverts have put a lot of stock in like, oh, going outside and being outside of the house means you have to be around people.
Yeah.
Well, this certainly has showcased that's not true. That's not the case. And I don't know. I think my challenge would be, of course, just get outside. Get outside for like 15 minutes a day. I mean, of course, unless it's like hurricane and, you know, thundering and storming.
I think it kills me.
Yeah, just get outside for like 15 minutes a day.
I think it kills me seeing these people who get upset and they act like they're locked inside their homes. I mean, yes and no. Like, I get that it's not the same. So, you don't have that ability to just go and get together with people. Again,
I think that's the whole perspective of it, because as I was telling you, when this thing, the quote unquote lockdown, or however you want to put it, started, like maybe like 3 weeks into it, or, you know, close enough into it, I was driving back from going somewhere and, you know, coming down 10th Street to our house and seeing the Louisville skyline. And I had the windows down in the car, and it was a beautiful day, and I didn't have the radio on. I was just, you know, just driving. And to me, that was freedom. Because we're not going to go into like personal stuff right now, but for what you and I had been through the past year or whatever, literally being you know, pretty much locked into our house with no transportation, no real walking, any place to walk.
This is kind of a walk in the park for us.
Yeah, no like money to spend, extra money to spend, or anything like that. You know, that was freedom to me. And so in a time when everybody else is feeling so shut in and incapacitated, basically, and not free, like you said, this was kind of a walk in the park. So I think it's challenged everybody's perspective on what freedom and entertainment is.
Do you think that there should be a whole new appreciation?
I would hope so.
From this?
I would hope so, absolutely.
You know, because I think I've always been the kind of person, and I wrote an article about this, about social media. And how
I've written some stuff about that too.
And how it's on dragonblogger.com, by the way, go check it out. Anyway, but about how social media has kind of in a slight way separated us, and
it's more than
let's just say it's a double-edged sword. Yeah. And because of the events that has transpired, it has even brought out the worst in people.
Absolutely.
Because of that now. But I will say that this is a time in our lives that those lines are drawn, and they've been never more clear than they have been until now.
I would agree with that.
Reason being is because, let's face it, people are so reliable on the internet. It has become an essential part of our.
You mean they're relying on the internet?
It has been an essential part of our lives now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm kind of getting at. Yeah. Is, you know, I can't think of a day where I haven't gone without using it in some fashion. Let's put it that way. It's, you know.
Yeah.
Whether it's on my phone, whether it's on the laptop, whether it's playing a game or getting buying something from a console. Smart TVs are connected to. I mean, we are so connected.
Yeah.
Not to just each other, but to the internet as a whole. And so now it's been, those lines are more clear now between how it's being used for bad and how it's being used for good. because you see the good when people are using them for conventions and trying to use them for like their jobs, like to have meetings, you know, and stuff. I know, like with your job, you know, Raven works from home, so you're working from home, so you have to use it for team meetings and video. You know, I mean, that's got to be difficult too. You know, you work. I'm not gonna say where you work, but you work at a call center. Essentially, you work in an office, and you are used to being in a building every day with people, and now you've had to be home with me every day. That's our dog, by the way, Willow. That's Willow. But you're with me every day, which I'm sure is a challenge. So. And it is. It's for both of us. It's different. You know, we're not used to being around each other all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and I will say that it is healthy to have a break from your significant other for a while, in the form of like, you know, work. That's what our jobs are supposed to do for us, though, is give us that.
And again, it would be different if I had like a separate room or separate area to go to where we could, you know, where I could do my work in another room and not literally. So like our kitchen and our living room is connected. Like I'm in the epicenter of basically the house.
Yeah, so. For those who don't know, where I on my end record, like you and I are obviously in the same house doing this right now. Where I record the Dragoncast is the same space that Raven does her job. Raven works, so we share the same spaces. Take her. We share the same spaces. You know, and all the equipment is pretty much shared between the two of us. So it's kind of like when I set up to do editing and stuff and writing and stuff, I have to transform this into like a studio. Yeah. And take off your headset because yours is different from the one that I use.
Basically, I have to unplug everything.
You know, they have to. Call centers have to use a special headset, and so I have to kind of like, in a way, transform this into like my workspace now. You know, and move your stuff around. But the lines are made so clear now because with what's been going on in the world, it has that hatred and that negativity are now more than ever there, and it's very easy to see, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean,
no,
you know,
it's not.
But I think the good is trying to outshine now too, in a way, with people using technology. Even like older people are trying to use it in a way now too, because you know a lot of older people are immunocompromised. You know, when it comes to that sort of thing, you know, and they're not supposed to be around younger people because of that sort of thing. So they're having to do things like FaceTime or Zoom. I didn't even know what Zoom was until this whole thing started going on.
I had
right?
heard of it, but
you know, and actually, Zoom has been around for a very, very long time. You know, right? It's been like 5-6 years. This is old. This is not something that just.
I love how in technology 5 or 6 years is old, but it is.
You know, but it is. So people are discovering new ways to connect, and I think it's really ironic. As someone who I always see social media as a double-edged sword. I like it for some things like, of course, promoting like a podcast or promoting my work or making connections and networking and stuff like that. But I've always seen it as like, I think we've been too connected to it.
I think we've been
too reliant on it.
Connected, and that's the thing. I think there are connections, and I think there is that, and I think again it goes back to perception or that false sense of security or connection, because how much of it is real? Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, even on Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, you know, you have everyone who's trying to put their best foot forward and, you know, and not everybody, a lot of, the majority of my friends don't live like that, or people I'm connected to on Facebook don't do that. It's more of especially with me, try to be transparent, but there's only so much about you that I think that's what I mean by the false connections is, like you said, the lines are being drawn, and it is a good thing to see how people actually view you and the people who really care about you and things like that, as opposed to the people who just want to hear the positive stuff and just want to see the positive. And there's nothing wrong with being positive. Absolutely. That's what I'm about, is spreading, peace and positivity. But
which we need more of that.
Absolutely.
Especially on the internet.
But there's a difference between negativity and transparency. And not everybody's life is sunshine and roses. And I think with everything going on in the world right now, it has been such a shock to so many people, because the people they quote unquote thought they knew or were really close to or family or had, really strong ties with or have known each other for like 40 years, they feel like they don't know them at all anymore because their views and opinions and emotions and things are coming out in ways that they have kept hidden before for various reasons. And so now we've had that false sense of connectivity to where the realness of it is like a slap in the face for a lot of people. And I don't know necessarily that that's a good thing or a bad thing right now.
I feel like, in the article that I wrote about social media as a double-edged sword, I kind of talk about and touch in there how people are so delved into like their devices. And that I noticed it, and I'm sure you've noticed it, and I'm sure people at home or whoever's listening have noticed it, pre all the stuff, pre-COVID and all that stuff. Face-to-face interaction with people has kind of gone on decline, like, in the sense of, it's like, how do I, like, wait, there's no app. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because we're so we've been so heavily reliant on a screen to handle our interactions with people. And I think the irony in this whole situation is now we want to see people. You know what I mean? And that itch to hang out with people is there. So I'm hoping that there's some sort of like renaissance of like spending more time face to face with people. And maybe us realizing, hey, this is just a tool. Like, this is just a tool, because that's all it really is. All these apps and stuff, they're just tools that were designed for us to interact easier. And this is what I go into in my article, is that they're not meant to replace how we interact with people. They're meant to be a tool and a assist, if you will, or to make it easier for us to communicate with each other. Just like how you and I text and things, or talking to people that back in Indy where we used to live, things like that, like, that we can't see. But that should not be a replacement of that, and we should not just solely rely on that like we kind of are in a way now. I'm hoping that, that kind of goes on a decline after all this, and you can definitely tell.
That's what I was going to say too.
The negativity. I think the reason why there's so much more hatred and negativity is because people are bored. I think people are just bored because they've had to stay at home. Now, granted, it's not so much anymore. States are opening up and stuff like that. People are. There's somewhat of a semi-normalcy out there. Granted, I had never. Raven and I went to dinner last night. We were out of town. I've never had my temperature taken somewhere.
Oh yeah, going into the
that was
restaurant,
weird.
That was a little.
We had to have our temperature taken going into the restaurant. That felt like I was in like one of those movies, like those post-apocalyptic, like. Yeah. That's so weird. Hadn't experienced that. I'm sure you already have had going to the eye doctor, right? You had to have your temperature taken.
Eye doctor when I donated blood. There was one or two other places now, but I honestly can't remember. Yeah. But not at a restaurant. Yeah. I hadn't had it done at a restaurant.
But it's been so weird. But I feel like the other thing that is missing from this is facial expression. Think about the mask. We have to wear a mask. You're supposed to wear a mask, which I recommend wearing a mask. You're recommended to wear a mask, but I highly recommend wearing a mask. I get there's some people out there that aren't able to, like you have breathing problems, or there's trauma from certain things where, some very bad things I won't go into. I can't say because we're on YouTube, but like that have happened to a person that maybe what happened to them they had to have their hand, things like that. I miss facial expression because I feel like facial expression says like a lot. It's a form of body language. It's so weird. Like going into restaurants, like went to Starbucks today and they all had masks on, and like, I mean, I can sometimes hear them just fine. Depends on how a person talks, but the eyebrow. You ever realize how much the eyebrows like? Isn't that weird? Like it's so weird.
It's been kind of weird because one thing that was mentioned a while back on a couple of my groups or pages that I follow was people who are deaf or hard of hearing who rely on reading lips of people who do not know sign language.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's good. That's a good point.
So that has been a bit of a challenge, and I haven't followed up with that to see how that has been going with them. But one thing that somebody did say that it is forcing people to make eye contact now. So you're really starting to like see people. You know, now I can hear them a little bit better now than I could before, because I think people now are starting to understand they have to enunciate more than they used to.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's a good point.
And also speak loudly, a little bit louder. They're learning how to project their voices a little bit more.
Yeah. Which
is something that I've actually had to deal with in both speaking because of my background and hearing because of my work in the call center. I have to ask people to enunciate or to spell things out phonetically or something because I can't hear them.
Yeah.
So, but the eye contact thing is actually kind of
it's been this world that we're in. It's been a crazy world with lots of stuff going on. You know, it's even changed the way people had to vote. You know, can't go in and vote. Had to mail in and do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like this has impacted just about everything that you can do.
Where I was going to kind of touch on earlier, and we kind of got off a little bit, but when you were talking about how
we do that here.
Yeah, I know. We were talking, well, you and I do that anyway.
It's fine, yeah.
But you were talking about how you're hoping that, you know, the replacement of technology versus people, you know, in-person interaction, that the technology replacement aspect is going to decline after this. And I'm really hoping, and I even hate to mention it because it is a horrible thing that so many thousands, you know, like 125 or 140,000 people have died now in the U.S. alone.
Something like that.
And they've been alone. Like, you hear of all of these, you know, people like, we've called so someone could listen to their loved one, you know, so they could say that goodbye. We've had, like, elderly couples on Zoom who have said goodbye and who have, like, did that way. And families who couldn't be there when someone was having surgery or sick, not even anything to do with I can't remember what we can and can't call it, so I'm not going to say anything.
You say COVID, it's fine, you say COVID.
You know, not even COVID related, but because of restrictions, they haven't been able to be with them. And so on that note, technology, of course, has been a good thing, but like you had said, I'm hoping that that is one thing that will help drive to people, drive into their heads, like, hey, this isn't a replacement. Like, it's not the same.
Yeah, I hope people are seeing this as more as a tool.
Yeah.
Because, as I've said before, I mean, social media was never intended, at least I don't think it was. Then again, I'm not Mark Zuckerberg. Because, let's be real here. If it wasn't for Mark Zuckerberg, I don't think everybody else would have took off like they did, like Facebook and stuff like that. Facebook was really, we could talk all day about, you know, MySpace.
I miss MySpace.
MySpace is still around.
Okay.
It's just a shell of its former self.
No. I miss MySpace, and you know what I mean when I say
it's just a shell of its former self.
I miss having the embedded playlist.
Yeah,
and spending hours creating.
Did you ever have people get mad at you for them not being in your top 5?
Top 8?
Or top 8?
No.
I used to.
But you have a lot of. Okay, I won't say.
I had ones back then.
No, you. Okay, you
really
had
did.
A lot of drama and pettiness.
A lot of pettiness.
From people also.
A lot of bullshit, but it's fine. We're doing a good job of trying to cut that out.
Playlist and spending hours to get the perfect background and like the HTML and, you know, doing all of that work and stuff.
Yeah. I just feel like, can you imagine? I wonder what life would be like. This is something I just kind of thought about. I was reading a part. I have my article pulled up down here, just kind of looking, hitting, touching some stuff from here. What if this pandemic happened in the 90s when we didn't have all this technology, like all this social media, like we didn't have social media. You know, you and I grew up letters. Mm-hmm. Do you think there would be an influx of letters? Do you think the post office would be overwhelmed with mail from people?
I would like to think so.
Or phone calls.
Phone calls.
I feel like phone calls would be off the
when you
charts.
have to wait until 9 p.m. after 9 p.m. to use your cell
No, I'm
phone.
talking even early night.
I know.
Rotary phone.
Yeah.
Nights and weekends.
Yeah, when you'd have to wait
God,
till
you know how much of a
9
bitch that would be back then?
for free.
You know how much of a bitch that would be back then?
But it makes you wonder, how now people are doing certain things to help others throughout this. So you kind of wonder if, maybe the cell phone companies would have done, a certain package deal where you would get discounts or, weekdays would be included at certain times. And,
that's the other thing, too.
Maybe after 4 or 5 they would be free. Or it's just been...
That's the other thing, too, is... I'm glad you brought that up, because, I didn't think about that until you brought it up. We saved money on our car insurance. We have Geico,
By
but,
switching to Geico. We actually do
We did
Geico.
actually save 15%.
Yes, that was funny. Actually, 15% on the dot.
I used to work at Geico, by the way. But they gave us a discount because of the thing. Mm-hmm. And I know, when this first started being a big prominent issue in the United States, we're here, what was it? Internet companies were, not putting caps on data anymore. Mm-hmm. They stopped, capping data. I think Xfinity stopped it. Because of the surge of, the influx of people being online. Well, that just ties back into the internet is such a, it's just like having a phone now. It's, it's just kind of like it's like when you go to somebody's house, you expect them to have an internet. Because, don't I'm sure a lot of people that listen to this are whenever you go to somebody's house and you've never been to before, oh, what's the internet password? That's like a, by the way, I forgot to tell you about this. So we got Android 10 on our phones, and there's a really dope feature on there. And if you have Android 10, you already know what I'm talking about. So you know how when somebody comes to your head, you have to give them the internet password, and then some people are very uncomfortable giving the internet password because sometimes you might use your password for other things, right? So Android 10 has this feature of you click on your Wi-Fi on your phone. That if you're already in it, and then you put share my Wi-Fi, and it brings up a QR code, and all somebody has to do is scan it, and they have your internet. You don't have to give them your password or nothing. It's shareable Wi-Fi within your network.
That's funny.
That's actually pretty cool. Because I know you forget our internet password all the time. It's some weird thing. Yeah. But I thought that was kind of neat technology. But yeah, I think this is a perfect time to have a pandemic.
That brings up another thing that I was going to touch on a little bit ago, but forgot about when you had mentioned.
What's that?
How this would be different in the 90s as opposed to now. This would be
so different, man. 20 years ago.
I don't know if there would be less fear or more.
I think that the news outlets would have to do a hell of a better job on reporting the news. Because, well, let's take, for instance, I'm not going to talk about them in detail, but the other issue going on, okay? We talked about it here on the Dragoncast, so I'm not going to get into it, but imagine if we didn't know any of that stuff. Would those things be happening in other cities?
Yeah.
I mean, would it be just all word of mouth, phone calls?
No, well,
it'd be so much different.
Too.
It'd be so much different.
Newspapers. But I feel like journalists would have to actually be journalists.
Things wouldn't spread like wildfire like they do now.
And here's the thing. So I went to school for journalism. Okay, yeah. I almost went to. I double majored for a while, briefly, in communications and English. Mm-hmm. All throughout high school, I was journalism. I went to journalism camp, at IU and blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
Back then, I feel so old saying that, but back in my day, you were taught unbiased journalism. You were not supposed to take a stand either way. That's what I was trying to do.
So you're good.
You were taught unbiased journalism. You weren't supposed to have. You weren't supposed to have opinions on things. It was supposed to be, opinions were the editorial section. And now I just feel like journalism has run amok in the sense of there's no unbiased journalism anymore. It's all opinionated. And I've totally lost my train of thought.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that journalism would be a lot. They'd have to be on it more than they were before, or than they are now. Because now it's just easy because you have internet, you have a tool that you can use to kind of make reporting. Because take for instance back then, it was a lot to get the scoop on something. You didn't have the internet to look up. Stuff. So they had to rely on their sources more, and they had to rely on phone calls. They didn't have texting back then. They had pagers. They didn't call somebody, but they didn't have the ability to just go to their computer and find out stuff and report on whatever somebody else reported on. Usually, if the news didn't break until it was literally on TV. You know what I mean? Whereas now there's the internet, so they can just do this whole thing like CBS this.
Well, and
it's easier that way.
It always was a race to have the top news story before a certain other station, or if you worked for one station, you wanted to get the big news story before the other station did.
Yeah.
But now it's just so lackluster in the sense of, first of all, the editing. Oh my God. There is no freaking editing on news stories that is posted online anymore, ever. There's always full of typos and things like that. So, I think it's, you see a breaking and it's one person killed and, 2 people shot, and this story is, and that's literally it gives you 2 people killed.
Yeah.
At this side of town at around this time of day. This is a breaking news story, more to come. It's that would never have flown back then. You had to do actual reporting. That's not a report. That's a freaking status update. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. They had to know. They had to know more and be more on it back then. They had to. They actually had to be better at investigative journalism. Not just. There wasn't message boards back then where they could go and search for things.
They didn't have interns, and I know this is not the case for everybody. Don't get me wrong. I know I'm kind of generalizing at this point, but it's just an example. They didn't have. Interns were doing menial stuff, in the sense of, helping them out and, actually learning things. Now, interns are running social media pages. Whether that be Instagram or Facebook or what have you, they're the ones responsible for certain social media aspect. And I think that's where a lot of that problem, I don't know. I don't know what the statistics are on that, but yeah, I think that's where part of it is. It's not the actual investigative or reporting journalists doing the work, and it's so opinionated. Unbiased journalism is not. I don't think it exists much anymore.
Yeah, I feel like this pandemic happened at the right time, as bad as that sounds, because I think that it would be worse. I think that if it happened like 30 years ago in the 90s.
God, I can't believe that's 30 years
I know,
ago.
right? We're old. But like, no, if it would have happened 30 years ago, I don't see people watching the news and saying, okay, stay home. I don't think people would stay home as much. Because of the fact that, like, what was there really to do at home, like, 30 years?
Oh.
Like, hold on. No, I mean, as far as...
Tons more to do at home.
As far as, like, because face-to-face interaction was way more... was done more back then, sorry. You know, you had people seeing each other. Hold on. You had people seeing each other more back then, as opposed to now, or just, you know, like... So, I mean... I don't know if people would be able to handle, because now it's a little bit easier to handle staying at home, because I'm not saying like everybody has internet, but now the majority of people have internet now. So there's more to do online.
Yeah, there's more to do online, but see, that's the thing. You're focusing solely on the technology aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think, but see, you have to remember too, and this goes into societal aspects and things of, you know, like having both parents having to work outside the home now and things like that, where you didn't have quite as much of that back in the 90s. Or one parent worked part-time and could stay home with the kids. Or there was a lot of family connect and more family interaction. Like they did board games together. You know, they actually had dinner together at the dinner table at night. Like once a week, at least at my house, this was just kind of to make it fun, we had candlelight dinner. Didn't matter if we ate, you know, like... It's interesting. You know, just threw something together. Yeah. You know, but we sat down at the dinner table together, and once a week we made it candlelight, just to make it fun. Yeah. You know. But, you know, we had, like you and I were talking about, I guess, last week or something, you know, when we were kids, the types of toys even that have changed. Like, I had blocks when I was a kid. You know, I mean, So, I think people would stay home. I think... Of course, there would just be, you know, everybody would get bored and everything again, too. But, you know, think about how the activities that not just you and I did as kids, but in our neighborhood and the families and things that we went to school with. They did a lot of family stuff.
I don't know.
Like, I can't tonight. I have to be home with the family.
I don't know, though, because my counter to that is that, once again, people relied so much on going to people's houses and spend time with their neighbors or time with their friends or actually, like, you know, visiting their family. Whereas now, you don't have to do that. You know, you don't have to worry. Like, we're in a situation where, like, oh, man, I'm not, how am I going to see my friends? Or how am I going to see my family? Or how am I going to spend time with people or talk to people? Or, I mean, sure, you had phones back then. But 30 years ago versus now is you're talking about an age when it was all about the hanging out. It was more personal. The spending time with people was personal more. Yeah. The spending time was more frequent with people.
Yeah,
you had to actually go out and hang out with somebody. Playing a video game back then was at home or at your house on the couch. That's why they call it couch co-op. Is because you had to play video games with your friends and actually do it with your friends. You know, telling your kids to go outside and play with your friends. You wouldn't be able to do that now. You know, that if this was 30 years ago, you couldn't say go outside and play with your friends, right? So I feel like part of me, and you could be right, you know, the fact that maybe it would be easier because people were, but that's only within your own family, though. You can get sick of your own family, right? Like, for so long. And so at least...
Yeah, but even back then they had TV and movies and things. You could,
but the quality of all that stuff is far, far different than it is now.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have known that back then.
That's kind of true.
Think about that. The quality of those things back in the 90s was top notch
at
the time.
That is somewhat... That's true. That's true.
It's not like you can compare that.
But I do feel like the urge to go against and not stay home or do whatever would be more. It would happen more. I think people would actually like do it in mass more than they do it now. Because now it's easier to just be like, okay, well, I can text my buddy, I can FaceTime him, I can, like there's been times where my buddy James, we got on Zoom and watched movies, so like versus back then you could do that. Like you couldn't really you wouldn't be able to hang out with your friends or people 30 years ago. Like there was nothing, and we didn't know that was something that could ever be done. I never thought that was something ever be done, but that's the whole point. Is there would be that urge that I think that urge would be even worse than it is now.
And again, we can speculate,
but
we don't know for sure.
But something else I want to talk about too is this on the computer here is there's just been so many different just this whole thing going on. The way we interact with people and stuff like that, having to pay attention more to the face and the eyes, like you said, making eye contact stuff. That's something I never really thought about before. Other thing too is it was weird, like doing the whole digital menu the other night. That was different.
Oh yeah.
We had to scan a QR code and look at a menu on our phone. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like there's going to be so many things that's going to happen post COVID that might seem weird now, but it's going to be like, like going to a restaurant and then not. Because think about that. If you don't have to print menus, you're going to save money. All you got to do is have people scan a code and get on their phone. I never really thought about that anyway until last night. I was like, man, this is probably a better idea.
Along those same lines, I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking about, or when you were talking about how these studios now are not being used and people are having to think about these things at home and everything. Like my work, for instance, was very proactive in the sense of, trying to. We saw it coming. The company saw it coming. Like, hey, we got to be prepared.
You got to didn't waste any time. You're like, right. Okay, we're gonna jump on this now.
They were like, we got to be prepared in case this does happen.
Yeah.
In our area where we get the stay-at-home orders. Technically, everything that we do at work can be done remotely.
At home.
It can be done at home. And so they made sure that we had everything that we needed on our laptops and, at
That's
home and things like that. And, Teams and, Citrix and, things like that to conduct our team meetings and stay connected. And I wonder... This is kind of where I was going with that. Yes. I wonder how many companies are actually going to go remote and give the option of working from home, and not necessarily downsizing companies, but downsizing in the terms of office space, because if they have so many employees working from home,
that's actually what I was going to talk about.
They don't need to have and spend that money on brick and mortar stuff.
What I'm wondering too is that's a good point, because I feel like this is going to help a lot of businesses try to cut costs on things, and that could also help the economy, because if corporations are not having to spend so much on like actual physical places,
maybe they can give all their employees pay raises.
Then they can actually pay their employees a wage.
Although I have a really good job. I'm not speaking of
my
job.
your job's great.
Of my job.
She makes great money, but like
I actually did get a raise.
But like but honestly though, like this could cost people a lot of jobs too. Because think about there's been people that aren't able to work, and they might, if people can do this from home, then they might not need so many people. Like they might try to find ways to cut costs. I hope they don't cut jobs.
My company's actually hired people.
That's good. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But like the thing is like there's just so many things, man. Like going to school has been changed too.
I don't necessarily think it's going to cost people jobs. I think there's going to be a shift in the types of jobs that are going to be more readily available and in need. Like, for instance, a lot of people working from home, that has created the need for more computer and software programming and updating and functionality and help desks and, you know, getting locked out of things and, you know, why isn't this working and things like that, because, and I don't know that that's something that's going to get better, or I think that's just an example of how I think things are going to shift.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of companies that are going to look at this as like, okay, what's the point of us doing it, or what's the point of us getting together and working at an office? But with
Peace
everything,
of mind, sanity.
but yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's
I can't
as
wait
with
to get back to the
like
office.
as with everything, I can't either.
I know.
As with everything, I work from home, and listen here, I was working from home before you were working from home. This is my office, damn it. No, I'm just kidding. But like,
no, I feel like I've disrupted everything.
But as with everything, there's a double-edged sword, and the thing about working in the office is you're around people. You know, that's the whole point. Like I work from home, but you know, what do I always tell you? What am I always telling you? I miss working at retail. I miss working at retail. I'm gonna end up getting a part-time job working at retail. Yeah. Because I miss it. I miss being around people. Mm-hmm. I don't miss being around people right now because of everything going on. That's the reason why I'm home. But
you did it first.
But I would get tired of like not seeing my coworker. I would get sick of not seeing my coworkers. Especially if you had started working at. Now, if you had started working if you had already started working telecommute, like if you had already been telecommuting from the very beginning, and you never saw your coworkers, then you're kind of like, okay, I don't know these people. I've never interacted with these people face to face. You know, it's fine. But being as someone like yourself who you didn't start this wasn't a telecommuted start. You know, you didn't start working from home. You've started working in an office where you know these people, you know them by name. You know, these are people you count on, that you can just go walk over to their desk and get help for something. I've seen you struggle with that, like here, like trying to call your boss or trying to call someone, trying to get help, or the computer shutting, whatever. Like, that's gonna be the challenge is, expecting all of your coworkers to have substantial computers and software and great internet, and versus, is it going to be company paid? Like, is the company going to pay for your internet? I feel like, this is just me, I'm not saying your company should do this, but I do kind of feel like that if some of these companies are going to start, because I'm looking at an article right now, this is kind of what I've been doing, just looking up stuff on here there are already some companies who, Square is going to make all their staff members work from home now. They have already said they're going to start making all their workers work from home. That they're closing their office down and they're not working from office anymore. They're like, could you imagine if like your company was like, oh, so by the way, we're shutting our office down and you have to work from home for the rest of your career? Like, you're already looking at me like, what?
No, I would just be like, okay, I need specific provisions.
But they would have to, right. So that's the thing is, and that's what I'm kind of getting at is, so if they're going to be the ones that are saying, okay, you're working from home, your home is down in your office. Then the thing is, all right, what are you going to do? You have to pick her up. What are you going to do for me to make up for the fact that I'm not going to an office and I'm not having, the things I need? Mm-hmm. Because let's face it, at best, you're working from home, you're probably getting like 60%, 70%, maybe 75% of like working in an office.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like software, what you need.
Yeah.
You probably have about 70% of what you need. You don't have everything you need. It's not all the same as going to the office.
It's not all the same, but I would definitely say I have more than 70%. I'd say I have about 90%.
Really? You feel like you have 90%? I look at you sometimes, you don't look like you have 90%.
Because here's the thing. Now, a lot of it is because, okay, you and I share a computer.
Sure.
So we have a lot of software between the two of us downloaded on
That's
this
very
computer.
True, yeah.
So functionality, because of that, is different. I have the tools that I need, but the functionality of it right now is not as good. Mm-hmm. Now, when we get our company laptops, knock on wood, hopefully soon, that then that will change, and I will feel like I'm going to be more at like 95% or 98% of what I have. But no, there are a couple of things that I should be doing or that I wish I would be doing that, I have been asked to do at work that I just physically can't because we don't have the means to do it right now.
Yeah, I feel like if companies are going to start, I think some companies, like I'm reading on here, Facebook has said that Mark Zuckerberg's going to start having 50% of his employees work from home. I don't think it's a good idea to have just say, hey, okay, we're all working from home. The whole entire company. I don't think any company is going to say the whole entire company is going to work from home. There's just so many aspects of a job that you can't do from home. But I feel like if a company is going to make you don't have an option, and it's just their way of cutting costs, because let's face it, businesses almost every day, when they have those big board meetings, are trying to find ways to cut costs, And one aspect of that is, brick and mortar, because office spaces aren't cheap. They pay for leases. Some places they don't own their building, So I feel like if they're going to have people stay at home and make them work from home, this is my opinion, I feel like that means they should be responsible for my internet. I feel like you should be responsible for my internet. Because you are asking me to work from home, and say I've got great internet. What if I have data caps on my internet? Because, let's face it, a lot of these internet companies, I know Xfinity has data caps where, at least they used to when I had them before, but, if you go over your data, much like having a cell phone, you got to pay them an extra $50 to get another 500 gigs or something crazy like that. So I feel like that if a company is requiring you as an employee, okay, you're gonna have to stay home, they got to make sure that they're taking care of you as if they were still taking care of you as if you were at the office, and providing you with the supplies you need like you're at the office. Because I don't think it'd be very fair if they said, hey, you have to work from home now. Tough shit. You got to work from home, and then you don't have, you have internet, but you don't have the internet that you should have. Then they need to work with their employees on that. Be like, okay, we need to bring them up to having a certain type of internet. We need to make sure they're having unlimited data. Maybe not necessarily pay for your whole entire internet. Let's face it, they probably aren't going to do that.
No.
But they could at least say, okay, we're going to cover 30% of your internet bill. Because we know that you are using your internet for us 40 hours a week. So I feel like 30% of your internet bill would be fair, more than fair. And use it and count that as a work-related, reimbursement. Internet could be used as reimbursement. I feel like that would be. But other than working a job, there's just been so many different things. I feel a lot of businesses have closed up shop. I'm pretty sure it sucks having to own a business. And can you imagine starting a business 3 months ago and this immediately happens to you? There's tons of business. Chuck E. Cheese is going out of business.
Yeah.
Chuck E. Cheese. That's gonna be so weird not having a Chuck E. Cheese. That's the thing that I grew up on. It used to be Showbiz, back in the day, originally started by Atari. Nolan Bushnell started them a long time ago. And that's gonna be weird not having a place like that to go.
So kind of bringing that back around to entertainment.
It's so weird.
What have you been most disappointed in not being able to do, or now that things are somewhat going back to normal but not quite, what have you been most disappointed in not being able to
what do I miss being able to do?
Yeah, for as entertainment wise.
Going to arcades.
Yeah.
Arcade bars. Be great arcade bars by us. A couple of them anyway. I miss that. Bookstores. Which I hope remain relevant. Because once again, people can't go shopping for books. I don't know what the statistics are on buying books online versus buying them on a Kindle. I don't know how people buy books online. But just going to that. Coffee shops. Oh my God. I miss going. I know you were talking the other day, you had to take an exam.
Mm-hmm.
We won't get into the specifics of that. It's a very important exam you had to take.
But I didn't.
And that's the thing you don't think about.
I didn't take the exam though.
She didn't take the exam for we're not going to get into the specifics, but think about being a student
and going to class.
Think about being a student and having to take a very important exam like you did. You couldn't go to a class for your exam because of what's going on.
Already having challenges from working at home.
Right, challenges of working at home. Then being asked, and this is not your company's fault.
Oh, not.
We're not dogging that.
No.
But it's a circumstantial thing, situational thing. But you can't. There's no places open to go and like. Okay, let's go
study.
to because like I know when I was in college, and wanted to study, we went to Fazoli's. Free breadsticks, man. You just go in there, you get a drink, and then we would study. My
thing was Starbucks. I would go to Starbucks. I would get a drink. I would plug in my laptop.
Headphones.
Pull out my notebook. My earbuds.
And get into it.
Just do what I need.
But see, you can't do that. You can't do that now.
And people would, leave me alone. It has a very significant atmosphere. I would either do that or I would go to the library.
Right.
Well, guess what? Two things that
you can't go to the freaking library. I mean,
no. There was I couldn't. There was no in class. There was no schools open. I couldn't. There was one library in a neighboring town that was open very limited hours. I was there 3 hours one day and discovered they didn't have their bathrooms open. And
oh yeah, that's right.
How are you going to be open and yet not fully be open? Like what? Like they didn't even have their employees were not even using that bathroom. Like they literally they had tape X'd across the door, in the doorway and everything. It was all closed, and I'm just like, to me that
you can't use drinking fountains. I've been noticing that too. Now that kind of makes some sense.
That does make sense.
Okay, I'll tell you this because I know they don't have them in. I know they don't have them in women's restrooms, urinals.
Yeah,
they're social distancing in the urinals. So like I did go to an arcade. I went to an arcade for the first time like 3 weeks ago. Went to round one.
That was just 3 weeks ago. That was a week ago.
That was a couple weeks ago. The first time I went, the very first time I was like about a week or two ago. Great arcade, by the way. It's a huge place. But it felt so weird going in there.
Oh, yeah.
And the arcades are social distancing.
Well, yeah.
Because I was like, it didn't click at first. You have to understand, like, we're in a whole new world, right? We're in a whole new world, right? Aladdin knew what they were talking about, okay? Like, many years ago. And I'm looking at, like, these machines saying, out of service, not working. I'm thinking, damn, man, this is supposed to be round one. Because round one, I don't know if you noticed that, but they're very popular. They're like, they're in Las Vegas, I think. There's some in, like, California. They're one of the, like, big corporate arcades. And they're all very nice. And I'm going in here, and I'm like, man, I've heard a lot of good things about round one. Like, but, holy shit, like, all these machines are broken? This is out of service? I'm like, what the hell's going on? Then I was like, wait. I was looking at how they were broken. I was like, wait a minute. They're social distancing.
Yeah.
The arcades.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. That's not something I think about. That's not something I think about going to an arcade. I mean, if this was not happening right now, I'd be pissed. I'm like, God, man, there's so many freaking arcades broken. And I remember even asking the guy, I was like, okay, like, I just want to make sure. Because the first time I went you weren't with me.
No. And
I was like, I remember going home thinking, man, it's all broken. And the guy said, hey, I said, I'm just curious, like, do you guys normally have these machines out? He's like, no, man, we're just, we're social distancing. I was like, wait a minute, okay. And I started noticing the pattern of, like, the claw games, and you noticed it when we went.
Yeah.
They have those UFO catchers that are very popular in Japan, and one half was out of service, and the other half was not. And so I was like, wait a minute. They're social distancing. This is so weird. Now, you asked me that question. I'll ask you the same question, but I don't need you to give me the answer because I'm almost certain I know. I'm going to take a wild guess here, and if it's not, we'll talk about it. Okay. It's got to be the fitting rooms, right? Did you think about that?
I was thinking more in aspects of entertainment, but...
Well, that's shopping is kind of a form of entertainment. People enjoy that for entertainment purposes.
Well, it was definitely a frustration.
Tell us how upset you've been about.
So I'm not going to go into details as far as like being a woman compared to a man.
Don't worry about that.
There are certain aspects of being a woman
Everybody knows. Everybody knows. Yeah, we get it.
You cannot, as a woman, you cannot not try on a bra before you get it. You just can't. Okay, that's been frustrating. Yeah. But no, like we went to my niece's wedding.
I like to try on clothes too sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean,
but men's clothes are in measurements. Pants.
Oh, trust us, ours are not always the same either.
36, whatever. I mean, but it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, an extra large or a double XL is going to be the same for the most part than it is for females.
Yeah.
And, I mean, like, we can go into a shop and be the exact same brand of clothing, the exact same style and size, but it will be a different color and be, like, a size smaller.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So we can't, like... Well, as I started saying, going to my niece's wedding this past weekend and trying to find, like, a dress or something or something suitable, I was just like, there is one place in our area that has fitting rooms open. And I got to thinking about it when I was in there trying stuff on. It's because they don't allow refund. They don't allow returns.
Where is this?
Bins.
Oh, God, okay.
Bins Bargains, yeah.
Okay.
They don't allow returns because it's a bargain center.
Yeah.
It's kind of like...
That's interesting.
Like, even... Think of Marshalls.
Are they social distancing in the fitting rooms there? Do they have them separated? As stupid as that would be to do that,
No, they don't. But I mean, like, I was the only one in there when I went in there the other day. I mean, like, it's been fairly good.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, that has been a frustration. I wouldn't say that's been a disappointment as far as entertainment wise. That's what I was.
Well, no, I mean, like, I don't know why. I know you're talking about entertainment. I just was like, I'm thinking about how, because pretty much this episode's has been about like how the whole world's changed, like everything in every aspect. Not just, I mean, yeah, we're entertainment and technology, but it's what shopping's a form of entertainment.
Yeah.
People go shopping to entertain themselves. Yeah. You're bored, right? And you want to go out and do something. Yeah. You want to entertain yourself, so you go out and you shop.
That is kind of a good point that you bring up, because I have been thinking about it now. I have been seeing online more of. I've never hardly ever shopped online because I haven't had success.
I've shopped online exclusively now.
Clothes. I haven't shopped before online because I haven't had good luck with it in the past.
Yeah.
So now you see all these places like. I have seen a number of women recently on my Facebook newsfeed. Hey, has anybody ever ordered from this company before? I see all these advertisements, and I'm just, this is really cute, but I'm wondering how it works, and is it good, and do they fit, and, stuff like that. So, I guess I can say I'm confident in the fact of knowing that I'm not the only one that this has happened with, but it is frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been so weird, like... it's been causing. I feel like a lot more things than we think are gonna change.
No, I miss concerts. That's my big disappointment.
Yeah, I do too.
Like we were just talking, we went through.
I wonder how that's gonna work. I wonder how they're gonna ever have a concert now.
Drive-through liquor store tonight. That was pretty cool. But while we were in line waiting, I was just like, I really miss going to, I still call it Deer Creek, up in Noblesville, Indiana.
Yeah.
The outdoor concert venue, the biggest one.
Yeah.
I miss going there and having a summer shandy on draft and on the lawn and just chilling, listening to bands and just hanging out and being carefree and having a night away. And I think that has been one of my biggest, I miss that. I miss that a lot because I went to concerts every summer. Mm-hmm. Every summer.
I think concerts for you are like conventions for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because I feel like at a convention, it's kind of like my safe space. I hate saying that. I hate the phrase, but that's kind of what it is for me. Because
being outdoors with music is mine.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. I love concerts just as much. I love concerts. But it's just changed. It's just a whole new world out here, man. It's changed so much. We've had telehealth be a thing. Mm-hmm. That's a technology thing. People. I remember trying that for the first time on my phone, and she did the whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, how the hell are you gonna test me for COVID over the phone? But she asked me just a very basic series of questions.
This was way when it first started.
I feel like here's what I think is gonna happen too. And I think this would be really neat for the evolution of like mobile phones. So, I don't know if iPhones do this now because I haven't messed with an iPhone since like iPhone 5. It's been that long ago. I'm not an Apple phone fan. I like their Macs. I'm just not a fan of their phones. But I know with a lot of Samsung and a lot of other pieces of technology, like the Nintendo Switch, for instance, they're able to like read your pulse. I think would be kind of cool.
Temperature.
Is if they had temperature gauge, and you either put it up to your head, as weird as that would be, as awkward as that would be. They could do it. They could do it. Or have it, like scan you like the thermometer.
Well, I mean, that would make sense, or like, on a Fitbit or something, because you already have, it measures your heart rate, it measures.
But think about telehealth though, how that would be, like, the doctor could say, okay, I want to go ahead and have you take your temperature for me, and so you hold it up to your head, or maybe wherever you can get a proper reading. Yeah. I would imagine his head, but like, and then they.
I need you to take a rectal.
I'm gonna need you to bend over now. But like, I mean, for them to, well, that's what the stylus is for. It's got a temperature thing on it. Wow. Oh, wait, hold on. Lord. That is a great idea. No, not for that. No, I'm saying, hear me out. So to set up a thing, they make because like we have these stylos.
So the thing, they make
we have these stylos that come with styluses, like the notes and stuff do for Samsung. So it could have this thing where you pull it out and it's like an actual thermometer. You put it under your tongue, and then it pairs with Bluetooth. I think I've just created a new technology. I need to like patent this. Maybe I shouldn't say anything because then someone's gonna steal it. But it's got a built-in thermometer in here. So you take this out, it pairs with the device, and then you put it on your tongue, and then you just wait a minute, and then it reads your temperature on the phone. See, I made new technology.
Well, you wouldn't even have to put it under your tongue. You could just.
Okay, no. Why would you? You don't do that when you buy a thermometer, you dork. You put it on your tongue. You put it on your tongue, and then it tells you your thing. See, I'm smart. I have made new technology.
Some call it smart, some call it ridiculous.
So, anyway. You'll be thinking ridiculous when someone actually does that and makes bajillion dollars off that idea.
I cannot dog anybody's ideas because Pet Rock, Pool Noodle, those people invented those and they became millionaires. So,
No, what was the one that pissed me off when I worked at Blockbuster? Was those stupid... Do you remember those animals that were rubber bands? Do you remember those?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I never had them, but yes.
Like, it was a giraffe. You could get a giraffe, and you could get a dolphin. And
yeah, they were after my time.
Some dude had that. It was one guy. It was literally like one guy who had that idea, and he made like millions of dollars off that, like turning rubber bands into animals. I'm like, man, damn. Like, why? So what's gonna happen is you heard it here first on this episode of Dragoncast. Mark my words. Samsung. It's probably gonna be Samsung. Because I don't think there's an iPhone that has a stylus yet. There probably is. Like I said, I'm not into iPhone shit. But Samsung's going to say, because of COVID-19, we've decided that our next Samsung Galaxy, the S30 or whatever the hell it's going to be, a million years from now, it's going to, it's the S19, because it'll be like COVID.
Oh my gosh, no.
Then they'll say, we've decided that on all of our Note phones, we're going to include a stylus that lets you take your temperature and it connects to your device with Bluetooth. So for those of you who don't feel comfortable going to the doctor,
no,
you can have him take your temperature. and then the next model of the phone is going to have a little camera at the end. So when your doctor goes, okay, say you put.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
You're going to use the stylus to hold your tongue down.
Yeah, it's a tongue depressor.
So they can,
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You guys heard it here first. We're going to be our own doctors.
So what's going to happen when you have to...
We're going to be the nurse. We're going to be the nurse. You can stop that. That's the future. I really do, though. I honest to God do think that that are going to do something like that. Like they're going to incorporate, because there's only so much you can do with a doctor. You can talk to your doctor, or a doctor can really. I mean, they can't examine you over the phone. You know, they can't do the little hammer deal, or maybe they'll start doing that, like a Swiss Army knife with the phone. Like, and here's the hammer, and you hit it, and it tracks your reflexes wirelessly through Bluetooth. It's gonna have all this crazy shit. Pretty soon, you'll be your own. You're just gonna be your own doctor at this point.
There we go, right there.
Samsung has partnered up.
All I needed to know from WebMD.
Samsung has partnered up with WebMD to start making all these devices for your phone. They'll do that for people who are diabetic. They'll have them like prick their finger and it goes into the phone and put it in there and tells you your blood sugar level on the phone.
That anyway, so
yeah, but you know, if they can make the phone do all this other cool stuff, they can do that for your health too. You know, just a thought. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely a different world we're living in. You know, I'm really disappointed because you know what I'm disappointed about? I'm disappointed that there hasn't been anything ridiculous come out. Like, someone hasn't made this ridiculous piece of technology. Because this is, I'm going to tell you real quick. We're going to talk about video games for a second. Because that's what we do on this show. So, back in the day, before there was just Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft, there was just three. There was like a multitude of video game companies, right? This was after the video game crash. There was a video game resurgence when the NES came out in the late 80s. And you had all these video game companies. I mean, like, there was tons, you know, that were trying to make all kind of, like, because Nintendo did the Zapper. They were the first one to really have some accessories that were worth a damn. Unlike the Odyssey, where you had to like go and put a screen over your TV to play like hockey and stuff. So back then we had like all kinds of crazy crap just coming out. Like we had, I remember this thing you had put on. It looked like a bulletproof vest. I think it was for like Xbox or Sega Saturn or something, and or maybe it was like for the PlayStation, the first PlayStation. Because the PlayStation was the one that started the whole vibration, the controller, the DualShock stuff. Yeah. So you plug in your vest, and if you played like Virtual Cop or a game like that, and you got shot, it would like go off at a section of your body.
Okay, that's really cool.
It would like hit you. It would hit you. That's what I'm saying. So like,
they need to combine that with VR, like
so
now.
Like, oh Jesus!
Right?
You shoot someone, you fucking freaking drop down and ground.
I mean,
but that's what makes me mad. We have been in our homes for like the last 4 months, and there hasn't been a single insane like thing, unless I just haven't seen it yet, that's come out.
But I think it's because it's been all about simplifying.
Could be.
I mean, it really
try and make things easier.
Like you were talking about.
That could be a good point. That's a good point.
You know, moving instead of like doing it in a big studio. You know, just doing things from home. So it's all about like, okay, how can I do this quickly and easily?
Yeah.
So it's really been about simplifying. Because a lot of the everyday, incorporate all of the bigger name stuff into everyday home activities, whether that be work or play or whatever. Simple.
I know this is a website that I can count on. And I knew that if I went here, I would go down very far. So we're talking about this website called Geekology. It's been around for a long, long time. It's probably been around for over 10 years. I love this website. I've been on here in a long, long time. I think it's like ran by like one dude.
What?
And she's Raven's looking at her. So yeah, I know the functional life-size Lego go-kart.
No, 3D printed.
Yeah, 3D printed. So I've already seen this. I'm gonna scroll down. You were talking about VR. So are you ready for this? Creating temperature illusions using smells in virtual reality. She's got a thing up her nose.
What?
This
okay, that can't be sanitary.
So let's talk about this. I'll read this. Researchers from the University of Chicago's Human-Computer Integration Lab have developed a way of simulating temperature in VR by using smells.
Okay, that's amazing. I want it.
I'm going to read this. So we explore a temperature illusion that uses low-power electronics and enables the miniaturization of simple warming sensations. Our illusion relies on the properties of certain scents, such as the coolness of mint or hotness of peppers.
Nice.
These odors trigger not only the olfactory bulb, but also the nose's trigeminal nerve. I guess I'm saying that right. Which has receptors that respond to both temperature and chemicals. To exploit this, we engineered a wearable device based on micropumps and an atomizer that emits up to 3 custom-made thermal scents directly to the user's nose. Breathing in these scents causes the user to feel warmer or cooler. We demonstrate how our device renders warmth and cooling sensations in virtual experiences. Participants rated VR experiences with our trigeminal stimulants as significantly warmer or cooler than the baseline conditions. Lastly, we believe this offers an alternative to thermal feedback devices, which unfortunately rely on power-hungry heat lamps or Peltier elements.
That's really, really cool.
I thought you might like that. We were looking at stuff like technology.
But I see that little contraption on her face, and I'm just thinking, okay, are those going to be like usable? Can you rely on them to wash them? How is that going to be connected? Like, I'm thinking, of course, of the sanitary aspect of it.
It'll probably be like, like when you go smoke hookah, they have those little things you put over the thing so that you don't share.
Yes.
We're talking about the mouth guards.
Yeah, there you go.
They'll probably have like a nose guard thing.
Yeah.
For over each. I'm sure it's like each one has a tube or like that.
Well, that's what I was kind of thinking of. Like, you would go to oxygen bars, so I'm wondering if they would just have like their own disposable, attachment.
Oxygen bar. I've heard. Yeah, explain that to me. What is an oxygen bar?
Oh,
I have heard of those.
They're really cool.
You just breathe in like certain smells.
They're flavored. It's flavored or scented. Ooh. I'm gonna say flavored because all of your senses are connected. So you go in and they have different flavors, and you basically get hooked up to an oxygen machine, and it feeds you oxygen. And it's not, first time I did it was when I was with my previous husband. Went to Tennessee, and they had one in Gatlinburg. It was the first time we ever heard of it.
I remember hearing about that. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about those being a thing.
But that's kind of what that reminded me of in the sense of, wonder if it's just going to be disposable stuff. Because they gave you your own tube, and you could just hook it up to different ones.
Do you lay in a thing, or do you sit down?
No, you just sit. It's like an actual bar, except they have oxygen machine.
That is super freaking weird.
They have
you just put them in your nose, and
and you connect it, and you put them in your nose, and you breathe it in, and you can taste it. It's really cool. It's really cool. It gives you energy.
Is it expensive?
It wasn't when we did it. No, it was like
it gives you
energy for like 30 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, they probably won't give you like an hour because they don't want you breathing in too much of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you could only do it in like 30 minutes.
I wonder if that you
can do it for less than that, but I think we did it for 30 minutes.
Does it have? I wonder if it has any negative long-term effects.
No, it's oxygen.
Oh, yeah, but like the flavoring they put in there. No. Is it anything harmful?
Mm-mm. I'm sure there was these things that you had to read and sign off on, like anything else that you do, but I don't remember what they were. That was years and years ago. But yeah, it was cool. And then when I was DJing, one of the DJs up in Wisconsin had one. I didn't use it that night, but a couple of the other DJs did, and we were up there.
That's so weird. We'll have to go to one sometime. I want to
that
check
makes
it
me.
out.
I'm glad I thought about that.
I'm glad you did too, because I remember hearing about that. I forget where. I think I saw one. I think it was in New York. I saw one, and I was
wonder if there's one in Kentucky.
I was like, what the hell is this? Like oxygen bar? I'm like, is this where old people go?
You dork.
When they need like a hit?
I want to go to one of those like sensory oh my gosh, words are failing me. It's one of those tubs, like those water tubs. It's not like a hot tub or anything.
What the hell are you talking about?
I can't think of what it's called.
A hyperbolic chamber?
Yes. Welcome to Life with Raven.
Oh my god.
You know the thing with the thing.
Yeah, that thing. Jesus.
Shut up, I'm looking it up.
You're a dork. You know that thing with the thing. I mean,
that's what you do too.
That's what I used to hear all the time when I worked at Blockbuster. You know that movie with that guy? And there's a car. I'm like, that could be like 20 different movies, lady. Oh, that's creepy.
Well, they of course have like the water massage, which I think would be really cool, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a hydro massage, darn it.